Tesla executives have made several major announcements and comments this weekend and over the last week. First, Senior Vice President of Automotive Tom Zhu replied to a Chinese report that the Shanghai Megafactory is about to be officially launched, saying that Tesla's unique strength is developing manufacturing capabilities optimized for the AI era, and that the winner will be the one who can produce cars efficiently. This comment came just days after our very own Tesla retail manufacturing expert Jeff Lutz, in an interview with Farzad, was picked up by major news outlets, saying that the most under-discussed thing in the analyst world about Tesla is Tesla's new way of manufacturing. Second, Elon Musk replied to Jeff's post that pointed out three top executives, Jensen, Sundar, and Kalanick, have said Tesla is a leader in autonomy. Third, reports from China are saying that the new Model Y is now in production, with 600 being made daily. Fourth, several comments from Elon Musk and Vice President Ashok Elluswamy about the new features of FSD V13 and the coming RoboTaxi future. Jeff Lutz is a multi-decade supply chain executive and chief quality officer. He's now CEO of his own high-tech manufacturing consulting firm. Welcome and happy holidays, Jeff.
Yeah, happy holidays to you, Herbert, and everyone else. I guess one of the last shows of the year. What a year, and what a just bout of news we've had the last couple of days.
Yeah, I was on vacation this week, but there was some news that I'll share that happened last week, but are very important. Most of this happened just the last few days, and that's why I think it's important. And announcements and comments from the actual Tesla executives themselves. So the first one is Megapack factory in Shanghai is nearing completion. I'm going to show a video in Tesla and China news outlets interviewing people that work at the Shanghai Megapack factory, saying that it's done in preparation for planned operation in the first quarter of next year. It took 7 months from groundbreaking to completion, 50% faster than Tesla's California Megapack factory construction. Fault Bugs said that in a video, one of the workers said it's almost done. Now the main focus is on commissioning and trial production. 100% equipments were installed. I'll show that video. Plus, I'll also show these videos of a user that sent these videos to Warren Redlick. And basically, this person was showing you the Shanghai Megapack factory. But I want to get right to this one, which is Tom Zhu, Senior Vice President of Automotive for Tesla. And he said this: proud of the team. Many people underestimate Tesla's unique strength, developing manufacturing capabilities optimized for the fast evolving AI era. Once the entire automotive industry transitions to full autonomous driving, the real competition will center on how efficiently vehicles can be produced. We will be ready. So I'm going to question to you about what did he mean that unique strength is manufacturing capabilities optimized for the fast evolving AI era? Does it mean that the manufacturing capabilities is using AI, or that once you are actually using real world AI and you go autonomy, what matters is the manufacturing capabilities? He ended with this quote from Bruce Lee: speed is not just the ability to move quickly, but the ability to adapt quickly. It's the synchronization of mind and body, the elimination of unnecessary movements, and the focus on precision. The essence of speed lies not in haste, but in efficiency. This is right up your alley. Can you explain this, Jeff?
Yeah, the unnecessary movements and precision. That's a lot of that's baked into lean concepts in manufacturing and removing waste, Kaizen, Six Sigma as well in terms of precision. But instead of just throwing around the buzzwords, what Tom Zhu's trying to articulate, what he is articulating here, is that Tesla is going to be ready to produce, whether it's robot cars or humanoid robots, out of the factory at an extremely low cost, a lower cost than maybe most can manufacture at. And when you take the whole stack of Tesla's economics, both in there, they're going to get low cost in manufacturing, which is going to take that capital burden down for people that want to either fleets, or for people that want to host a RoboTaxi or participate or ride in a RoboTaxi. That cost of capital right now for everybody else that's building these vehicles is extremely high. And Tesla is already extremely low, and they've got basically 7-8 million dormant robots out there ready to be awoken. And I think that's the key thing. So it's really, Tom Zhu has his factories and has his team focused on speed, whether it's how quickly that Megapack factory was brought up. He's trying to best himself every single new factory he builds. By the way, that's his background. Before being an automotive executive in manufacturing, it was actually factory construction was his background. And what he's trying to do is best himself on every single new factory build out. And it looks like they've done it again in Shanghai with the Megapack factory. And the last earnings print, they talked about pulling in, it used to just be start of production in Q1. Now they're saying they're going to be delivering to customers in Q1, which means they've shifted that whole window to the left in terms of when the factory was going to be done, when it was going to be qualified and commissioned to produce production product, and then a customer on the other side willing to accept that product. So Tom Zhu's about speed, about and the whole message there is around speed, elimination of waste, precision, lean concepts, Six Sigma. These are great concepts to have as kind of like your backstop in manufacturing. And his factories are ready because the kind of volumes that are going to be needed for these robotaxis are going to be enormous. And then the volumes needed for humanoids are going to be enormous. So he wants to get his factories ready. He wants to get a supply base that feeds the factories ready for this. And, he's sending a message there. So fully support it. And I think Tesla is in a unique position.
I love that he made this comment now, because literally just a week ago, 2 weeks ago, you had this full episode. I'll show some of it with Farzad. And for a year now, obviously in this show, you have repeated so often that manufacturing is the actual product that Tesla has. That's a clear differentiator, and no one's talking about it except for you. We'll talk about that some more today. But we now have, this is a news
特斯拉超级工厂南面区，今年5月份我们航拍记录下仍然是一片空地的地方呢。储能超级工厂的中心。
now, but basically it's her interviewing the workers at Tesla's Megapack factory, and she actually interviewed one of the workers who said, right, that it's actually completion. It's completed already, or we're very close to it. It's almost done. That 100% equipments have been installed, and that they're just waiting for the announcements. And then this is another person who was interviewed or sent this video to Warren Redlick.
Good morning. This is Tesla's new Megapack factory. It's still under construction.
So you can see that basically jump around. He's showing video of the Megapack factory, and it's pretty well close to completion here. Yeah. So that's going to be exciting if they make that announcement quickly. So let's get to this one. I wanted to just show folks that we're very fortunate to have you, Jeff. Just really appreciate your experience, your manufacturing capabilities. You've worked at these large corporations. You've built factories. You have, launched products at the global scale. And, you did this fantastic interview, and you were picked up by this, media outlet, the blog outlet that has massive reach. And Elon also replied to it. So basically this article said that the Musk-led manufacturing revolution nobody is talking about. And it features you, which is great. So Zero Hedge, Tyler Durden said this: when most analysts discuss Tesla, they focus on new vehicles or the electric vehicle company's advancements in autonomy. Yet, according to Launch.io CEO Jeff Lutz, one of the most significant and under-discussed developments of Tesla is happening not in its design studios or on the road, but in its factories. Former executive at Google and Motorola argued that Tesla's true innovation isn't just the electric vehicles or robots, it's how those products are being made. And you basically have been spending a lot of time educating us on what is the difference about that. Is creating factories that are the product, designing, testing, and perfecting every element just as they do with their cars. The focus on manufacturing efficiency, Jeff Lutz believes, will lead to a dramatic reduction in production costs, potentially bring them closer to zero. And this shift in how products are built rather than merely assembled could set a new standard for the entire manufacturing world. Can you speak about this? This is just a great, you're being recognized, and I really appreciate that you're being picked up and people are being aware of the things you've been saying. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. No, it's great. I think it was a little bit taken out of context there about cost going to zero. The variable side of costs, when you look at the cost of the vehicle relative to the cost of the service that Tesla is going to provide at very high volumes and very low manufacturing costs, we talk about things theoretically approaching zero when we talk about when we start a new product line from scratch and we figure out what its terminal rate could be in high volume production. And if you have those fixed assets, and you basically, the theory is it's not a theory, it can be proven that your costs will approach zero. It doesn't get to zero, but they approach zero as you can depreciate those assets and massively grow those volumes, and then improve that efficiency under the curve. Whether that curve is yield, whether that curve is process time, whether that curve is process area in the factory, these are all the things that Tesla is excelling in. And we've seen them go from a niche car maker to passing legacy auto in terms of being able to produce an EV profitably, and none of them still can. And then getting the scale. If you look at the scale, if Tesla does 500,000 cars this quarter, that's the same number of cars they did all year in 2020. So they're continuing to be able to scale this operation, and I believe the bot is going to scale at a rate that's going to be much higher, at a much steeper slope than what they've done with the vehicle. And coming out of an industry like smartphone that we've got it up to 1.2 billion units annualized, you really start thinking about this advantage that Tesla has, and this could be. We could riff for 2 hours on this in terms of the implications for their factories, the implications for their supply base, suppliers fighting to be a supplier to Tesla at one factory, suppliers fighting to be a global supplier to Tesla, partners who help them build factories, competing on the bid, the construction work, their own construction entities that they have. I mean, this could go on, but in general, the whole commentary is we're starting to really pick up the pace and talk about, and we should be, about what Tesla's doing with autonomy. And we've, in practice, we obsess about units and vehicles and how does the car look, and is there going to be a smaller car, is there going to be this car or that car. And while all this stuff is happening, what's flying under the radar is Tesla is shrinking the process area needed to build their vehicles. They're shrinking the process time to build their vehicles. They're eliminating parts to build their vehicles. There's been some great work done on the Cybercab and some early investigations on that. Brian did that for Futuraza. And what all this is leading to is their advantage isn't, they're not standing still. They're growing their advantage in manufacturing. And I would say that there's a couple of players in China too that are on that trajectory. It's not all of them, by the way. I think it's actually very few of them. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But yeah, the whole point of it is nobody's talking about this, and their lead is actually growing in manufacturing. And I believe when they get to unboxed for the vehicle, I believe that they'll be able to build the bot unboxed. But while they're hatching the unboxed process, they're going to be prototyping the process where humanoids come in and replace manual labor, and then humanoids come in and replace some of the actual automated robotics, which nobody's talking about this, that humanoids come in. So unboxed enough is going to be a huge leap in terms of reducing process times, increasing output. And while they're doing that, they're working on the next leap, which I think is going to be many times greater than the leap from the serial manufacturing process to unboxed. What they're working on with humanoids in the factory is going to be, a monumental leap. So that was the whole purpose of the kind of the discussion, and it's got far-reaching implications not only beyond their gigafactories, but beyond all the partners they work with too.
Yeah. So it goes beyond volume, right? Jeff, obviously, a volume is a big one. You've been talking about that for so long, the far-reaching. So I'd be curious to know from you, like, what is the volume milestones, right? So a company that only makes 100,000 cars versus one that can make 500,000 versus one that makes 1 million or 2 million. What are those milestones that really make a big difference? And then the other bit is not just volume, it's obviously efficiency of building. And are they putting autonomy first manufacturing, right? What's your thoughts on both of those comments?
Yeah, the volumes really come into play a couple of ways. One is a lot of companies are heralded, like you look at Toyota or GM, and you're looking at 8 million, 10 million units of Volkswagen, but then go look at their model count.
Yeah.
And if you look at the model count, it's this gigantic number. So then when you go look back into the supply base where most of the unit economics of the vehicle are, that is in the piece part pricing of the components. And remember, they're not vertically integrated. So you're not vertically integrated, you have a high model count, and so your volume per part number is lower. Tesla, if you look at that metric, you're only dividing into 5 main model types. And even if they grow that by a couple in the coming year, it's still nowhere near. I counted
32.
BYD, they're up at 35, including all their delivery EVs, their variants. They have 35 variants. So that's one thing. So when someone says how much volume is needed for it to be meaningful, I come back to the volume per model conversation. And there's no model greater, I think, in the auto industry today than the Tesla Model Y. So if you're a supplier, you're going to be fighting for that award to get the Model Y. And then in terms of AI and manufacturing, I posted about this, I think a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. And for all the emphasis and for all the effort that Elon is putting in developing and ramping AI in terms of, XAI and Tesla, I would be shocked if he wasn't looking at his team in kind of their own kind of goal planning for the coming years and saying, how are you going to implement AI in manufacturing? How are you going to implement AI in product development and engineering? How are we going to reduce the number of iterations needed to get a part from its inception stage to its mass production stage, and how many different revisions are needed? That's one thing. I mean, there's so many things to look at. I've worked with companies on this and helped develop some things relating to in manufacturing. When you're mechanically assembling a product, there's an orientation of everything. There's how the cables are routed. There's how many turns are in the screw, how are the screw heads oriented, the bias of various things as they're assembled in the product. Wow. All those things could be photographed, and computer vision could upload those things, look at those photographs, and then tie them to the parametric output of how that product is performing when it's functionally tested later on in the process. And you can start tying the two together and saying, okay, when I do this, or when I route the cables like this, I alter my parametric performance by Y. So what you're trying to do in the process is you're trying to build a product once and get it out the factory. And you're trying to do it as quickly as possible. And you don't want to have any rework. You don't have any fallout in the factory. So there's a lot of ways you can use AI. You can use it in material flow. There's so many different things you can do in the factory. So this could be its own YouTube channel. In my opinion.
Exactly. No,
not even its own show. It could be its own channel.
We will need to dive deep into that, because you just listed out 8 things, and you said you probably know more. That is so. It just obviously visualize now much easier. How is AI going to improve manufacturing? And they're very likely doing it now. Okay, a lot more news this show here. Let's move forward. You got Ashok saying this. Former Uber CEO Travis Kalanick, when he was asked, now this was an interview in October, what he would do if he was still the CEO of Uber, he said, of course, we would be doing autonomy. But I think Elon will take care of that at this point. Confirmation that from Travis himself that Elon's Tesla's AI autonomy is probably the leader. It's already a done deal. The entire world is waking up to the fact that Tesla will dominate the RoboTaxi business, says Yashu. And some Tesla bulls still think Uber is a good investment. Even the Uber CEO, the ex-CEO, saying to you, Tesla's got it. That's a very quick snippet of Travis.
You were starting to roll out. I mean, of course, we're doing the autonomy thing. I'll put that aside. I think Elon's going to take care of that at this point. But
that's just him saying that, when he was CEO, he tried to roll out autonomy. He knew it was the future. But at this point, Uber's nowhere near. They're doing a partnership philosophy with that. You said this, Jensen, Sundar, right? In recent interviews, they all said that Tesla is the leader in autonomy, and Kalanick now have said it. They're well-versed in a tech and business model. This is signal. This is signal, not noise. You gotta listen to these guys who know the industry. Elon said, yes, this is right. This is an important thing. He replied to you. Comments on that?
Yeah, I'm surprised more people aren't talking about the business model. And to me, it invalidates a lot of the low volume prototype operations out there, because even if they can, double, triple, quadruple, 10x their volume, it's not clear to me that they get to a break-even point because their cost structure is high. And they're also looking to partnerships to do a lot of these different things. So you think about the cleaning of the vehicle, you think about the servicing of the vehicle, you think about the fleet management. And as soon as you start, bolting on partnership. Well, if there's some real scale, maybe there could be some mutual benefits. I'm not saying all partnerships are bad, but if you have a company that consistently figures out how to get the fewest number of the smallest amount of movement needed to get an operation done, the fastest process time to get it done, and you do it yourself, and you don't have to pay yourself a margin on top of the work you're doing, then that always wins out. This is the whole thing of vertical integration versus a distributed model. And there's certain times where you need a distributed model when you don't have the scale, you don't have the capability, you don't have the know-how. But Tesla keeps inventing what they don't have, and they keep developing what they don't have. And when they roll it out, they tend to get it to be better than what the existing things are out there. So if you can be as good as or better than what's out there, and you don't have to pay yourself a margin because you're not, contracting the work out, well, then that's always going to work out. So I'm surprised that people aren't talking more and more about the business model. But Jensen's been interviewed. He's heavily into the tech. I'm sure he's into the business model. Sundar interviewed. He sees both the tech and the business model 100%. And of course, Travis Kalanick, who, and again, I've had a very close look at what Uber was working on in many different stages with Aurora, with OTTO, and some of their own efforts. And I would just say that, cars with, significant amount of hardware in them, they're a ways away. Like, could you get some demo drives and get some interesting things happening? Sure, but I'm not sure from a cost perspective where it was going. They had the whole visibility of the whole, cost structure. They really knew the unit economics of ride sharing better than anybody. So I think they were coming at it from a different way. But him saying that, Elon's got this, and remember Elon and him, Elon started following him at some point last year on X, and I'm assuming there's been some conversations, at some point about this. And Travis is highly respected. So my takeaways is there's huge signal here when these gentlemen both know the tech and they know the business model, and they say Tesla's in the lead. I think Wall Street is most of Wall Street, I shouldn't say all of it, but most of them are missing out on this. And it's this whole thing of like, what's your time horizon? What's your risk tolerance? And, there's risk in everything. There's risk in what Tesla's doing. There's 100% risk. But I would say there's huge signal here when three of the top tech leaders in AI and autonomy are saying, and ride sharing, I should say, they're saying you're the lead.
They don't just see right? Not just like we are FSD. They see compute growing, they see the miles, and they understand that the relationship, the scale growing. Yet many people are still not believing and understanding this, and that's fair. That's fair. But so I know this conversation just keeps being rehashed again and again. And you and I did a show with Dan Ives and Gary Black, and he still believes, despite the things you were explaining to him, FSD 13.2 is still nowhere close to being unsupervised. It needs to be at one intervention per year. Look at the tracker data from Tesla FSDtracker.com. Sam says that tracker data is undersampled garbage with strong selection bias. He says, hilarious that Uber both talk trash about FSD tracker data when Tesla refuses to publish intervention data. You can't have it both ways. And you said, look, we've already had this conversation before. We talked about standard for the data. There isn't one. We talked about comparing the apples and oranges. One has a driver in the seat, the other doesn't. Back to number one, there's no standard. 99.99% of people would misinterpret the data as a result. I've explained from a fleet management perspective, no company is making decisions off of FSD Tracker, which is a handful of people submitting subjective questions on it. But Tesla has data, millions and cars and billions of miles. No one of authority saying version 13.2 is RoboTaxi ready, including Tesla. So, why are you comparing that? I recommend listening to the company, following up the concept of scaling laws, and use the product yourself to pressure test for relative improvement. I'm surprised anyone's pointing people to FSD Tracker. Exactly. Any comments on that?
Yeah, and we had a good conversation with Gary and Dan, and really trying to understand. This is important, I think, for people to understand. Like there is a base case. There is a how is Wall Street thinking about some of this? And it's not like everybody on Wall Street thinks one way or thinks the way that Gary's representing, but there is, there are people that that want to take a view like that. I would just, again, posting the link to that tracker, I think is, I'm not a fan of that. I think it's a data point, but it's high. Like, go back to the signal to noise commentary. I think there's very little signal and extremely high noise. I think you're better off, honestly, driving every version yourself, at least doing hundreds of miles yourself to see relative improvement, because you drive to the same places all the time, in your life. And you'll be able to see, like, well, when I was on 12.1 in February, I was intervening here, here, and here. And now I'm on 13. I don't intervene at all. I haven't had a safety critical intervention yet on 13.2. So I think that is a data point, but that's not we're shipping it now because, Jeff had a great, has had a great relative improvement. But that is a data point for when Tesla talks about 10x improvement, 100x improvement, and 1,000x improvement. You driving a statistically significant set of miles on a consistent kind of roadway is one way to track relative improvement. So then you got that, you put it to the side. Next thing, you listen to Tesla and you talk about what they're seeing. And Tesla has simulators, and they also have they also have the ability to drive it internally. They have system test apparatuses where they can run accelerators on it. And of course, the big thing is they have the visibility to millions of cars collecting data, and many hundreds of thousands of cars actually driving FSD 13, and then billions of miles off of that. So if I'm looking at this, I see high signal coming from Tesla. And if you say, well, I don't want to believe everything management says, well, that's fine. Drive it. You should drive it yourself, especially if you're, you're investing in it or you're advising people on it. You should be, this is such an important piece of the Tesla story that you should, gather your own data points on it. And that's the point. Finally, it is truly apples and oranges. Like if, Waymo posts some data with no driver in the seat, or some other company, Cruise, posts some data with no driver in the seat, we don't know about teleoperation. We don't know what's included in the data. Somebody posted later saying, hey, there's things that are not included in the data set that you're talking about. And that goes back to the whole data, standard piece of it. And I learned, because when you're setting up precision manufacturing, you cannot or you're designing something with precision that has, nanoscale type tolerances you're dealing with, you cannot depend on, oh, I looked at this, or I looked at 5 units, or I looked at, you'll never get a product built. You'll never get a product shipped. You need absolute precision. You need high sample size, or if you can't generate high sample size, you need to figure out how to generate acceleration with small sample sizes. And there are reliability experts that figure out how to do this. You can't just wing it and go to this crowdsource thing here or there and do it. You're going to get high noise in that data. So, and you're not going to be able, by the way, it's going to blow past you. In terms of by the time that noisy data sees something, meaningfully improved, the street, everybody else is already going to pick up on it a long time ago. So I'll leave it at that. It's good though. It's good to have multiple perspectives. It's good to debate them. It's good to pressure test them as well. We can't all just be saying the same thing. And like I said, I don't think 13.2 is the final version. I think Tesla's saying that as well. There's work to do, but the relative improvement is what you got to focus on.
Yeah, relative improvement. And I'm going to share some more information from Tom Zhu and from Ashok, Elluswamy, and Elon on that. Meantime, let's switch gears here. We're going to talk about Tesla Model Y. So apparently, this is news from China. Again, I'm not sure how accurate this is. Tesla Chen usually reports news that's coming directly from China, but not sure how accurate this is. He's saying that Tesla China has sold out of the Model Y sales already. Okay, this was a few days ago. This is another person who confirmed that sources say that Tesla China hit 24,000 deliveries last week, and we'll verify that number tomorrow, by tonight actually. Tesla China exceed sales. Now we need to look at the US and European. So this could be big. We'll find out tonight. And this is rumor that Giga Shanghai's new Model Y daily production, this is the new Model Y, is now approaching 600 a day of being able to create the new Model Y. This is Juniper, 1/3 production capacity of the new version. And of course, we're continuing to see more and more of these spotting. I want to have you watch this. This is pretty interesting. So obviously this is the Model Y being seen here and it's being covered, but it's the rear that's quite interesting. Jeff, I wanted to get your opinion on that. What's going on? But he's about to get there now. So if you look at the rear, there's a little hole cut out. So that, we think that that's a light bar back there. That's what it certainly looks like. But why did they cut out that light bar? Some people think it's a camera, and some people think that they're safety. You need to show red lights when you're braking.
Yeah.
And some people think that maybe you're opening up the trunk.
Yeah, I think it's, camera, you need to see the light in the back. But yeah, all these things posted are rumors, and, we need to get confirmation from the company. But, the 24,000, deliveries, it's obviously a very even number. Probably not going to be that number exactly, but it's certainly within the range. I think they've done 21 or 22K in a week. And last week was, I wouldn't say it was soft, but it looks like maybe, some units could have been held back. There could have been, there could have been a technical issue where they couldn't do deliveries for a couple, whatever. The 24K seems like it could be in range, but I guess we'll find out here soon. And if it is, I mean, it's really capping off, again, a big quarter for Tesla. And I think Tesla, if they can crack the 500K, that's a big milestone for their production. Their suppliers see it. They love it. They're pulling inventory from their suppliers. I'm hearing that a lot of the inventory is being literally soaked up. I'm just in the U.S. perspective. So I'm looking for a big inventory. And when I say big inventory, I mean a big beat. And it'll be interesting to see if they ratchet that. Their inventory is amazing, 19 days in channel. And if they're able to keep that or even ratchet it lower while they increase production by this much, that's a very telling statement about their manufacturing efficiency and what they can enable. I think, and the other thing people need to understand is there's a couple of types of incentives that Tesla are putting on. And these incentives that are in this bucket of insurance or supercharging, there's certain ones that'll have a delayed impact from a financial. If not, it may even be difficult to measure in terms of the financial impact to Tesla. The inventory discounts will hit in the current quarter. Some of the interest rate discounts will hit. But you have to understand that while Tesla is doing this, I think they really bifurcated their incentive strategy, where some of them are going to be felt more in the future or barely at all. Because remember, Tesla's growing that base on the supercharger, and they're getting more revenue. And they can ratchet that supercharger cost up a few pennies here or there, and no one would even bat an eye on that, by the way. And then you have the stuff that'll hit in the current quarter. But while they're all doing this, they're increasing their production, 8, 10, 15% in the last couple of quarters, depending on which quarter you look at. That is big sequentially quarter to quarter. So that will help them. That will be a huge boost from a cost perspective. And finally, all the suppliers are going to want to get into whatever this new vehicle is going to be called, Model Q, whatever that new vehicle is going to be called. Everybody's going to want to get an award. Those awards are, by the way, they're already done, but now their suppliers are jockeying. Okay, maybe I got a 20% share award, but I want to go to 40 or 50 on my share award. So now I'm going to offer Tesla a discount because the volumes are just huge. Tesla said, Elon said they're gunning for 20 to 30% growth. So it'll be interesting to see what they're signaling to suppliers. On the interest rate side, it's not coming down as quickly as we'd like in the U.S. Other geos, it's better. But in summary, I think these increases in volume are really good for the company. And watch out, fixed cost absorption, utilization increases will outstrip, and the new product leverage they can do with their supply base will outstrip any of these financing things that Tesla is doing. It will completely outstrip it in terms of COGS. But I have to do some more homework. I'm not landing on an exact number yet for gross margins. But what I'm saying is what Tesla is able to do with their portfolio, with their volumes, with their fixed cost absorption, with these volume increases, and these engineering changes that they're doing to take costs out of the product are, to me, the higher order bit in this whole gross margin conversation.
Yeah, but you've been sharing information about gross margin for a while now, and I think we are now experiencing it. And you've been saying that it's going to show up in this quarter, next quarter. We're finally starting to see those fruition. Yeah. I got a few more things to share here, so I wanted to get to it about FSD. So you've got this thing, 20-second video of what FSD 13.2 did, and some comments by Ashok Elluswamy.
It's trying to do. All right.
So it needs to get to the far left to turn left.
Wait, excellent.
And it just says, okay.
Oh, he's doing a Miami thing. Oh, wow. He has to make a left, so...
Yeah, I did this for me in Chicago the other day, too.
Did it really? That is crazy. That is crazy. It knew that you weren't moving it at all. This range said, FSD version 13 drives as if there's a Neuralink chip in the head of the driver ahead of me. Whenever they even think about slowing down, I'm already slowing down. Okay, the FSD can see the car ahead of it. The relative distance between us also remains static. My only concern is whether the driver behind me is competent enough to do the same. It's so close. Ashok replied to that saying that high res 36 hertz video inputs. And Robert Scoble kind of clarified that video cameras in Tesla can see 36,000 times per second. That's why it's so smooth. And then this person said, cool pick from tonight. Cool to see a new updated camera heater. What other car just throws that in a software update? Because of a software update, you can see that one of the cameras that the car uses, in this case, a Cybertruck uses for FSD, it's melted the snow. And Ashok confirmed that is improved camera cleaning. So it uses heat to melt snow or to melt debris off. And then this also was published. This crazy chart, you'll see Tesla's market cap nears half of global auto industry. This is this infographic here. You can see that in blue is all the United States auto companies, Tesla, Ford, GM. We got Rivian here, and then in pink or peach, it's Japan. You got Toyota, Hyundai, of course the merger between Honda and Nissan. Then you got the orange is Germany. Then you got the China is in red, and then you got India and others. So just market cap of Tesla. This market cap is massive. Elon replied to that, said with a lot of work and good ideas, I think it could exceed the value of all transport companies, excluding SpaceX. What's your thoughts on that?
That visual is, it's people putting Tesla in the auto bucket.
Yes.
And Tesla is an AI company that makes cars. Yeah. And if there was an AI bucket, that's where it would go. And you'd see some pretty big numbers with some of the other companies that produce AI products, but actually don't have the same kind of efficacy or impact with real world AI that Tesla has. So it's kind of in the wrong bucket. And on the whole commentary around the video inputs, the 36,000, the 36K hertz. I mean, what people need to realize is that, I think this is just to kind of like simplify the conversation, is Tesla, the vehicle, and they reduce that whole latency in the chain too. So from the time it sees what it sees to the controls in the car. And so it's seeing these things at 36,000 times a second, but it's not waiting, like our eyes wait to see a complete picture to understand and comprehend what we're looking at. This is just photons of light. It's reacting off of photons of light, photons just coming in and then controlling the vehicle out. So it's actually has the ability to react much, much, much faster than we would visually. And remember, we have two eyes in front of us. The car has 7, cameras that are used in FSD, 8 total in some of the vehicles. So, I just wanted to make that point, is that we're on kind of a different level. I think people are kind of like, how did it see it? How is it so smooth? Well, these are all the changes that they've made for V13 and really optimize, for hardware 4. But I do think hardware 3, there's still room under the ceiling there for it to be significantly improved and get its own, V13 version in time.
Thank you so much, Jeff. That was another killer show today. Very important show, actually. You've explained so many big points. Manufacturing is the most important advantage Tesla has, and just all the other topics we covered. Appreciate you. Follow Jeff on his X account at the Jeff Lutz. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.